There are many important questions in life that will probably never be answered. Like, why are McDonald's Big Macs so expensive when they're smaller than my fist? Why haven't we invented medicine that actually tastes like what it says on the box? And is it weird to feel genuine sadness and grieve over a fictional character? Spoilers. This is a question I've had to ask myself on numerous occasions, as I find myself so confused as to why I'm crying over a bunch of moving pictures. It's more likely to happen as a kid because kids become attached to basically anything they watch. I would know. I was a kid once and I wanted to marry Barney the dinosaur. But it's not just limited to kids. Some kids' movies have death scenes that are just as heart-wrenching as an adult. Like the death of Mufasa in The Lion King or the death of Optimus Prime in Transformers the movie. I mean, come on, kids aren't ready for that sort of thing. It hurts, man. As a kid, I always thought it was dumb when people cried watching movies. I mean, it's not real, you goddamn Dumbo. What the hell's wrong with you? But now, as I've grown older, physically, not mentally, I can finally say I understand what people mean. It sounds kind of weird to grow attached to something that doesn't even exist, and even more so to grieve them when they die. They can't die if they didn't exist in the first place, right? But that's not true. They exist here. Right here. I grow unhealthily attached to characters within stories, and so this has happened to me on more than one occasion. And I know I'm not the only one this happens to, because there's a freaking WikiHow about it, so it can't be that weird. A lot of the more modern and popular cases would be things like Harry Potter or Game of Thrones. I can't say I know much about either of those things, but what I do know is that they're very good at killing off beloved characters. Rest in peace, Dobby, you beautiful, disgusting testicle. Character death in stories can be used to progress the plot, to serve as a motivation for the other characters who aren't on the receiving end of plot convenience, or even to establish a threat of how super spooky scary a villain is. The problem with this is that we usually aren't given a lot of time to mourn them, because the focus is on the main character and whatever they're doing in the back there with their stupid plot armor. To be honest, it's rare nowadays for a story to actually have the guts to kill off a major character without immediately bringing them back afterward. Like all the kids that bawled their eyes out when the Iron Giant sacrificed himself. And then he's fine. Don't worry everyone, we tricked you. Please stop crying. It's like in comics how death is little more than a break for a character. But some tales have dared to go through with it with varying degrees of tragedy. But when a story uses a character's death as a major point in the story, that's when it hurts. Not a fake out where the only point is shock value, a genuine, heartfelt, emotional character death. Ones that actually hurt you as the viewer. The one that I wanted to bring the most attention to was an example that personally affected me quite a bit. And that was the anime Your Lie in April. This show broke me into tiny little pieces and then set those pieces on fire. Happy crying, dipshit. Now usually when a character I like dies, I get a bit upset about it, you know, maybe frown, maybe stay quiet for an hour or so, put on some sad music to make myself feel worse. But no, Your Lie in April didn't just do that. This was a full-on week, where I was hit with every early 2000s emo phase at once. So to fill you in on what devastated me so much, Your Lie in April is a beautiful tale of this dumb nerd called Kosei Arima, who used to be really good at playing the piano until his mum died. Also, his mum's kind of a dick. So Arima lives a normal regular life as an anime protagonist, getting violently abused every so often until one day he meets Kaori Miyazono. Yes, it's a love story, but it's a good love story. It took me a while to get into it because at face value it's actually kind of boring. Like, one episode is just a guy playing the piano. For 20 minutes. Skipping over some very minor details, Kaori coaxes Kosei into playing the piano again because she plays the violin. And that's what I meant with the piano playing. A lot of the show's emotion is in the music pieces, which are just beautiful. It basically has the central theme of discovering who you are through music. As I said, at face value, it sounds pretty bare. But there was something special about this anime that just kept me coming back for more so than a lot of shows that I've watched. Because the show emphasized the characters, their relationships, and their experiences, and a lot of these experiences were relatable. It's hard to capture why this show means so much to me without sharing the emotional connections that I had. So I would encourage the 99% of you watching that haven't seen Your Lie in April to go check it out before I spoil the shit out of it. At the very least, give it a shot. It's not for everyone, but it was something that very much pleasantly surprised me. Anyway, so late in the show, they start showing hints that something is very wrong. Kaori starts to falter and ends up in a hospital more often than not, and it's pretty clear after a while that she's sick. This all leads to the final episode, where Kosei and Kaori were supposed to play a duet together at a competition, but Kaori needs emergency surgery and so can't attend. So like a goddamn hero, Kosei plays a fantastic piece that takes up a chunk of the episode's duration. And it's clear during this song that Kaori passes away, with the song giving a metaphorical goodbye to her by its conclusion. It's this beautiful sequence that became heart-wrenching when you came to realize what it meant. The whole series had a large emphasis on music reaching people, and it's clear in this final sequence that Kosei's music reached Kaori, alright? It reached her real good, buddy. So I'm sitting there and I'm feeling pretty teary-eyed. Alright, big deal, you know. Suck it up, it's not real. You're better than this. Hey look, it's a letter written by Kaori that reveals that she was in love with Kosei the whole time and never got to tell him. Here come the tears. The latter half of the final episode reveals the series' biggest plot twist. That Kaori was in love with Kosei from when she was very young, but kept it a secret. It changed the entire perspective of the show and made Kaori's loss just that much more devastating. This is done as Kosei reads out the letter, so we experience the emotion with him. This to me was a perfect ending, and one that has stuck with me for a very, very long time. I still can't get through it without choking up. And man, by this point, I was bawling. You could have flooded a city with the amount of tears I shed during this scene. I had to narrowly avoid encountering anything about the series online for the rest of the month, because I felt as if I had lost someone close to me. And that showed me that Your Lie in April did a fantastic job at making its characters feel real and making the series worthwhile. There's another two anime that brought me to tears that ended in a similar manner, but with different implications. One is the anime Angel Beats, and the other is Anohana, the flower we saw that day. Two shows I also heavily recommend. Both have characters disappearing at the end and lots of tears, but what set Your Lie in April's ending apart is the realism. Angel Beats and Anohana contain supernatural elements, which isn't a bad thing because those endings still made me cry like a little baby, but Your Lie doesn't have any supernatural themes. It's a mysterious and undefeatable disease that takes Kaori, and that's what makes it hit so hard. A character death has to be personal for it to be effective. Now, this will always vary depending on the viewer, because some are little babies like me who get attached to anything that moves, and others are absolute edgelords that are hard as steel and super cool. But if you can make the characters connect with the audience and make them feel real, it's then and only then that taking them away can hurt. A lot of the more common examples of fictional character deaths that hit home were parents, like Bambi's mom or Littlefoot's mom. As a kid, this hurt the most because you could relate it to your own mum, who you presumably loved very, very much. I know I did. And so imagining yourself in that situation and empathizing with the character is what made it hurt so much. You felt their pain, and that's why watching these scenes can make you cry like a big dumb idiot. So for me, Kaori's death hurt so much because I understood the situation. I believed it. I could feel myself in Kosei's shoes, and so it hit home. Also, because I liked her a lot. Your Lie in April broke me. I've never felt so incredibly awful after watching a show before. I felt like something was missing from my life now, and I honestly became frustrated with myself that something like this was affecting me so much. I mean, I've been to funerals before and brought my DS with Mario Kart and had a great time. But here I was, subbing over a frickin' drawing. And now, as I read this out, I'm beginning to remember all the feelings and sadness and oh no, here it comes again. But I'm definitely not saying that a story has to be realistic for a character death to be sad. That's far from the case. Instead, it's the character that has to be realistic. Even if they're an elephant. Even if they're an imaginary elephant. I mean, who are you supposed to go to for comfort? Who are you supposed to tell about it?
What's the matter, sweetie? Is a book character having difficulties?
Unless you have some really cool and not judgmental friends. Friends. There are several factors that really hit me the hardest when it comes to a character's death. These include letting it settle in. Just like with real deaths, it takes quite a bit of time to come to terms with what's just happened. But unlike real death, there's always a high chance that they're not actually dead because I'm sure by now we're all sick of the classic final words sort of death where we have to spend about 20 hours listening to a character's goodbye speech, but it's important to give a proper farewell to a character. Please don't fake out. No one likes fake out deaths anymore. Some characters are just too important to kill off, and no one's stupid enough to believe they're actually going to be gone when you've just announced a new season. Unless it's done really well, like Infinity War, which I saw twice, and I cried twice. And most importantly, having an aftermath. Sometimes it's not the death itself that gets you, but the aftermath. The vapid loneliness that comes with their absence. For Your Lie in April was that goddamn letter that got me because her words made her death just that much more upsetting. What this can do is keep a character's presence in a series without having them directly in it. And this is done well when stories help the viewer move on from the character's death by taking them through the grieving process with the characters, like Gurren Lagann did with Kamina or Pyrrha in RWBY. So it made me curious. Why does this happen? Why on earth am I crying about a freaking cartoon character? I mean, there's a few issues with fictional characters after all. For one, they're not real. They'll never love you. They'll never love you. They don't speak to you, they don't know you, they're not real. But to counterbalance, you spend so much time with them throughout the length of the story, and that's what makes them feel real. A story should aim to make its characters believable so that they can be someone we can connect with. And as I said before, this connection comes a lot easier for some people than it does others. According to totally real studies that I refuse to cite, our brains can't tell the difference between whether they're real or not. And so, we grow attached to them just as we do normal people. We share their experiences as we watch them throughout the story, and when they're gone, it genuinely does feel like we've lost them. So, it's okay to cry over a fictional character. You're totally normal. See, I found a source here from Dr. Green. The degree to which the grief takes place will depend on the strength of the attachment. This might be particularly strong for someone that lacks intimate relationships in their own life, or lacks a full-on engaging life and may be living a virtual life through TV dramas. It would be wise to seek professional assistance. Well, so how do you get over it? Well, for one, you might want to find some actual friends, apparently. Just like with death that happens in the real world, all it takes is time. Time for you to accept that a character had to go and make peace with it, or the time where the writers inevitably revived them for fear of losing ratings. All in all, don't end up in my situation where I thought I was pathetic for being so upset. Crying about a fictional character is totally okay, and you can guarantee that there were hundreds of other people in the exact same boat as you. Whether they're real or not, it's the connection that's genuine, and that's really all that matters. Rest in peace, Coyote. You won't be forgotten. Oh, but don't even get me started on dogs that die. I can't handle that shit.